Hey guys, this is Rich and I'm here with Audrey.
Hey everyone.
And we're taking a look at the Leon segment of the Resident Evil 6 demo, which just came out today with Dragon's Dogma.
Exactly.
And
this is the first time Mr. Leon S. Kennedy has been in a core numbered Resident Evil game since 4, so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's also the first time Leon's going to meet with Chris, although you won't see that in this demo today. One of the things to point out about the demo, if you are going to play it, or maybe you're not able to play it because you didn't buy Dragon's Dogma, shame on you. So it's just like the main storyline will be in the final game. The demo is split up into 3 distinct segments. There's Leon, there's a Chris segment, and a Jake segment. We're doing commentary on all of them. We have all the footage, so just keep digging around and you'll find all of this so that you can kind of check it out. Specific to the Leon segment, what we're going to see is what appears to be like basically right at the beginning of the game for him.
That's what it looks like. It's got to be the beginning of the storyline that we've seen teased in the trailers and stuff with the president and all of that.
Exactly. So I mean, right off the bat, we're in Tall Oaks. We're in 2013. Leon's got a choice to make here.
Looking rather fine, I gotta say.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's anything before this sequence, but basically what's going on here is the president has been infected by a viral outbreak.
Yeah, it looks like in the game they're just sort of going to communicate that whole part with this little montage right
Looks
here.
like it, yeah. And it's a new virus, the C virus, which is, you know, infecting the president. So now Leon's got to make a choice. And you know, he was sort of on the presidential detail, but president wants to eat his brains. And so Leon is going to have to shoot him any minute now.
Yeah, and this takes place quite a bit after RA4, so I think it's already been confirmed that this is not Ashley's dad.
Right.
It's a different president.
Not Ashley's dad, so everyone thinking
that dude didn't get reelected.
Exactly, and I mean everyone was thinking that Sherry, who accompanies Jake in the game, was actually Ashley,
but it's not.
Not the case. So one thing to point out, obviously you see this woman here, that's Hellena Harper.
She looks like Hilary Swank, but she is Hellena Harper.
And so, you know, as sort of was started by Resident Evil 5, each main character, like Leon, like Chris, like Jake, they're all accompanied by a second partner. For the purposes of the demo, actually, you're able to pick between whether you want to play as Hellena or Leon. We're going to be playing through as Leon here.
During the actual game, you can actually have a friend jump in and play co-op with you as the other character.
Exactly. Drop in, drop out co-op is now in this, and then you know, something we're talking about in the other demos too, but there's actually a crossover mechanic where as Chris, Leon, and Jake's storylines sort of weave together, if you're playing online and you allow it, you're actually able to join up with complete strangers who will play with you, kind of simulating the idea that, you know, Leon and Chris and Jake and all these different characters don't necessarily know each other, and so it's kind of an interesting idea. And
there's some great throwbacks for our Resident Evil fans, like who as you just saw, Hunnigan is back, you know, helping Leon with information and orders and things like that.
Exactly. So one of the interesting things is that in terms of tone, each of the demos you play are very distinct, and it appears that Capcom, at least from what they're showing in trailers and everything we've seen, each campaign is a little bit different.
Yeah, they sort of speak to what different sets of Resident Evil fans are looking for. Like, Chris's is very, very much action-oriented, almost even more so than RE5. Exactly, run, gun, climb.
Yeah, it's like at the height of RE5's action moments, that's kind of what Chris's felt like.
Exactly.
At least now.
Leon's is more old-school Resident Evil, very slow-paced, more about the suspense and the horror elements. And Jake's is just sort of
a chase.
Yeah,
basically.
it's sort of a chase.
Yeah, and it's hard to say whether it'll be consistently that through the entire campaign. It's hard for me to imagine, like Jake's, for example, just being all
chase the whole time.
But
they clearly wanted to make it a point to show that all 3 of these storylines are going to play and feel a little differently.
Exactly. One thing to note, just speaking to the controls, actually, I mean, you see them up here, and I'm not going to address every single little bit on here, but a few things to note. You can now move and shoot. That was a long time thing that a lot of fans were like, why can't I move and shoot? So that's in here.
Yeah, and I'll say, I for one was really apprehensive of that. I was sort of an old school RA purist. I was like, I don't think you should be able to move and shoot. Doesn't make sense. But it actually feels fine in this game.
Yeah,
it works.
It all has to do with how they sort of develop the environment and the mood and the aesthetic of
It's something they toyed with in Revelations. And,
correct. And it works a lot better here than it did in Revelations, where, you know, you are moving and shooting. You're not necessarily like...
It's not just like strafing or
correct,
anything.
yeah, or in locking your aim into one fixed position and then moving from there. This is like true move, shoot. One other thing to note, you'll see kind of on the upper right, it says use health tablets. you actually now, rather than using herbs and those sorts of things, you actually just have health tablets that you acquire.
Exactly. You still pick up herbs, but they're automatically
They convert it into the tablets. Right, exactly right. And yeah, so I mean that's another thing just to kind of keep in mind. Another one that we mentioned in the other demos as well is you got a little waypoint system there. I'm not sure how much I like that. I actually like not quite knowing where I need to go.
Yeah, especially during, well, all of them really, but especially during Leon's, you'll notice that the demo at least is very on rails. Like there's not much room for exploration. It's basically just go down these hallways and go follow the waypoints to your next objective.
Right.
Like there's a little bit, there are like a few rooms you can look around, but it's mostly very straightforward.
Yeah, it's very scripted in trying to tell and tell a story, set a certain scene. And I think one of the interesting things is if you're not playing this, it's harder to see and understand. But there's a lot of moments where, say, Leon is, he sort of pushes against a pole or against a doorway, and you see some of this stuff, and it's actually a little bit scripted. You actually lose control briefly for those split moments.
Yeah, like when he gets to the bottom of the stairs here in a second, you'll see he sort of puts his hand on the stairs and looks around like that. That just happens automatically.
Correct, yeah.
And it sort of lends to the suspense of it, where you don't know when it'll take it out of your control. And like here, you can't run right now. The game does not allow you to run right now, but then in a later segment, you will be able to.
Yeah, and as you notice during like Jake's sequences and stuff like that, like there's definitely a lot of running in this game, and Chris's sequences and stuff like
Leon's
that.
is very different in that way.
They're just, yeah, they have an interesting blend of control. I mean, it's interesting. Old Resident Evil games had a habit of restricting you in terms of physically how you can actually move your character.
And that added to the survival horror element because you felt restricted, so you're like, oh gosh.
In this way now, they sort of restrict you in terms of just how, right there, you'll see him sort of moving against the pole. That's actually sort of a mini cutscene that's going on right there, and then you got him spotting
then
that
you'll
guy.
just hop right back and you'll be able to control him again.
Exactly. And I mean, that's it.
And now you can run, but you could not do that earlier.
And then you'll notice some other moments too. For example, right here, he can't get past these chairs, and apparently chairs are very difficult for Leon. But then as he runs down, you'll see him run down a path here in a second. Table's bad idea, Leon. You can't get past that. But there's a chair that he'll bump over right there. You saw it off in the bottom screen. So it's an interesting blend of scripted and control. You have more control over your actual character, but the actual way the scenes play out is a little different.
Capcom's definitely playing with the idea of using player control to set an atmosphere in Leon's storyline.
And then, I think one of the things I really picked up as I was playing through this sequence was just, in terms of lighting, the aesthetic, the mood, this feels a lot like much more old school Resident Evil.
It does. I mean, you could almost have a zombie dog jump through the window and wouldn't feel out of place.
Exactly.
Whereas in the other storylines, it's very different. It's more modern Resident Evil.
And I mean, and in Jake's, for example, a lot of people are always commenting on how Resident Evil 5 is in the daylight, and Jake's is just right out in the daylight. Chris's and Leon's are more set at night.
Yeah, like you just said, like this whole entire demo for Leon is very dark. Lots of shadows, lots of dark rooms, lots of flickering lights. So it's very different from Jake's playthrough or from Resident Evil 5.
Now let's focus in on a couple other things that you guys have seen as we've sort of been talking about some different things here. But you'll notice different icons will show up at different points for scripted events. So you'll see A pop up, you'll see B pop up, and you're probably sitting there going, well, what's the difference between those? Why are they different? A is used when just you yourself needs to do something, whether you can open a door, open a chest, or whatnot. They're very like single player commands. When you see a B pop up and it sort of shows like two hands kind of revolving or something, I'm not quite sure what the icon there is, but it's co-op. It's a co-op icon. Exactly. It's calling your partner over.
So whether you're playing just with the computer character or online with someone, that means you have to wait until your partner joins you to be able to execute that action.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, the entire idea, as we mentioned before, is built around a co-op environment. Those of you who played Resident Evil 5, remember Sheva, that whole sort of experience, that is very much back.
Like we said in some of the other demos we've done commentary over, the co-op is less in your face this time around. Like or your partner there, she's not going to be taking your herbs or your ammo or things like that. Like they're just there, almost just for the story, really, unless you're playing online with someone. One
other thing to note, it's going to be a little while before Leon actually gets into some combat, and you'll see this probably more with the Chris demo, which is all about combat. But the item management in terms of weaponry and that sort of thing is actually much more on the fly. You're actually just using the D-pad to cycle through your weapons really quickly. No more like going into the suitcase or going into the old school inventory mode. Like you were just, where's my gun?
They're just
Where's
all
my
instantly
grenade?
accessible.
Exactly. Something else to note, you just saw it fade away in the bottom right corner, and we mentioned this in the other demos, of course, but each character kind of has a different user interface and display in terms of, that sort of fits their character, their idea.
And another note, speaking to the pacing of Leon's segment, is here you're following that guy around who you're trying to help him find his daughter, and you can't run ahead of him. He's got the keys, so it's another way the game is forcing you to take it slow, because you sort of got to absorb all of the spooky atmosphere they're trying to throw down your throat and just follow this guy.
Yeah, it's sort of an interesting way they're going about this. We're talking a lot about this script. There's the single player icon you saw there, so Leon can do that without Hellena. But one of the things they're doing here, and it'll be interesting to see how different people react to this, because different people play games in different ways, but they want you to play this game in a pretty specific way. And if you really are trying to do other things, like if you really want to just go explore everything immediately, if you really want to just go charging into combat or running down a hall like a madman and not wait for your partners, you may get pretty frustrated at some points. I remember one point I'm running down this hall, I'm like, why can't I get past this? And it's because the game didn't want me to get past that point yet.
Exactly.
And then later you actually go right through that point, and it's, see, like, for example, Leon can't open this yet. And
so you got to wait for this guy to realize that he wants to go and open the door.
Right.
So you can't rush it. And like you said, you'll either really love it because it sort of harkens back to the older RE games, or you just won't like it because it's too constrained.
One of the things that the constraints do allow you to do here is, you notice the guy coughing there, and I think in a better way than some past Resident Evil games have done is that allows them to sort of set up a story. And, you're following this guy around, you're kind of like, yeah, searching for your daughter, who cares? But it actually, as you'll see in a few minutes, it pays off pretty well. There's a really, really cool sequence right towards the tail end of this demo that I think is actually one of the more effective scripted sequences that I've seen in a Resident Evil game in a while.
Yeah, it's even pretty well voice acted. I think I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Resident Evil has a tendency to be a little B-movie, and it's
a little cheesy, like intentionally so. It's
yeah,
part
it's
of why we
beloved
love the series.
Exactly. But they do some stuff that in here where I would really liken it a little bit to Walking Dead, actually. Very character-based and very clever.
Like with this guy, I mean, we won't give it away anything. You're going to see it in just a second. You can tell things probably aren't going to work out too well for this guy.
Yeah, oh, you're coughing. Are you okay? And the guy's like, yeah. Oh, it's like clearly
you probably know he's not going to be okay. But it does a great job of like sort of building the suspense. And whenever he just starts having coughing attacks, you're like, oh God, when's it going to happen?
Right, exactly. And see here, for example, the guy is moving that pillar, and had you try and kind of run ahead of him, Leon, for whatever reason, is not going to be able to move that pillar.
Even though he removes other similar pillars later.
Exactly.
But it's just like we've said, this particular storyline is a lot more almost on rails than the other ones.
and particularly speaking towards this segment.
Exactly. We haven't played the full game, but this segment is very straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. And we're about to come up on, sort of the group here. The three of these guys are going to finally kind of at least come to a point where they discover or don't discover. You got blood prints on the door there, so they're gonna at least get some resolution. So here again, you're calling out to your partner to help you open a door.
And in case you haven't seen the non-commentary version of this, they're looking for this guy's daughter. They were at the presidential banquet, and
this is at a university in Tall Oaks, and boom, daughter. Hello, daughter. Looked a little better, I'm sure.
She's looked better, but I'm not sure why she was wearing short shorts to a presidential banquet. But
yeah, exactly. So yeah, one of the other things to point out, I guess, generally about the game is, you're obviously in Tall Oaks here, which is in the United States, fictional city set in the United States. When you're playing as Jake, you're in, Eastern Europe, and then Chris's segment is actually, I believe, over in China.
Yeah, so while the storylines intertwine, they're very different places in the world.
Exactly. It's a very global story. We do know from trailers and stuff that a lot of it intersects at some point and in different points during the different storylines, but
and I believe right here is an example of where, like, I tried to run ahead and just sort of move along without them. But see, I needed to do the partner action to raise that beam. But you have to wait. In this one, it's particularly a long time. You have to wait for your partner to catch up with you. So yeah,
Leon's a very patient person.
He's a very patient man.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, again, depending on how effective your online co-op partner is, or
the computer
this is
partner
AI.
here is taking her sweet time.
Exactly. She's looking in a box, apparently.
Yeah.
But you can see the little icon off in the distance is sort of giving her location in terms of where she is in relationship to you.
She's finally getting
And
there.
there
we go.
So, you know, again, those of you who played RE5 probably aren't
Have
too surprised by
encountered
some of
this,
this. Yeah. Let's see, some other things to point out would be you were actually going to start seeing some action here in a few minutes, which will be a great chance to see more of it. If you want to get a really good sense of what the action looks like, definitely check out the Chris demo.
That one is definitely more fast-paced, more action-oriented than
Yeah,
this
if you guys
one.
are sitting here going like, when do I shoot zombies?
You do shoot zombies eventually in Leon's, but it's definitely, it's like we keep saying, it's like in the original Resident Evil games, where it's not so much about shooting tons of zombies so much as setting an atmosphere and trying to feel like you're getting away.
So this is the moment that I was referring to earlier. I think it's pretty well done. You know, they've been sort of scripting you, kind of holding your hand in a sense through this.
We all knew this moment was coming, that's about to happen, but it's still, the way they set it up over the course of the entire segment makes it pretty powerful when it actually does happen.
Yeah, I think that, you know, Capcom takes some risks in taking a little bit of control away from you, but at least for some of you out there, I think it'll work, and it'll be a sort of gamble that pays off well.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how it works in the complete game, but in the demo, it works really well, actually.
So here we got our guy having some coughing fits. Conveniently, the light goes out.
And
you're
Leon's
in an
little ear
elevator.
flashlight isn't working suddenly for some reason.
Yeah. It's funny how all that equipment stops working when you need it the most.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know you got
Ooh, zombie drool.
So to the best of our knowledge, this is actually Leon's first encounter with a zombie in his branch of the storyline. And as you can see here, you've actually got an interactive thing where you're actually swirling the stick ahead of that marker, and if you get to the, you know, if you move the green meter up quicker than that little white marker, you fend her off. So there's a lot more of those sort of quick time event type things, which we've seen in the series for a while now. And Hellena takes out the girl. Dad's dead. And
that little family reunion didn't turn out so well.
Not so well. And then, of course, here we go. You know, they get to the bottom of the elevator.
And Hellena can sort of sense that they're not alone.
Yeah. And so, you know, here you'll get a little bit of better sense. This is actually the tail end of the demo. But you'll get a better sense of the action sequences. And Leon's stuff, you know, Leon's branch definitely has a considerable amount of action in here. And it's actually entirely possible to completely run out of ammo. Right there you saw Leon pull off a quick shot. You can actually press a couple buttons and just pull off a quick shot to, you know, fend off some guys and break free. You can also do the melee attacks, traditional melee attacks.
And another thing that harkens old school RE in Leon's segment is that, like, while there are a ton of zombies here, and you can really, like in my demo at E3, I ran out of ammo pretty quickly. But you can also just sort of run past them if you want. Like, it's not as necessary to shoot a bunch of guys as in the other storylines.
Right, exactly. And I mean, obviously, one of the things that is mentioned in the demo when we're not doing commentary over it is the fact that, you know, Tall Oaks has sort of been besieged by some sort of viral outbreak.
There's some sort of fog that is spreading this virus and turning people into zombies.
Exactly, and again, here comes Hellena to help you get away from all these guys. But yeah, like you were just saying, you know, speaking to this kind of survival horror, you can kind of get away from the guys, keep away from the guys. So
yeah, this is towards the end of the demo, so it's about to finish up in a second here. But yeah, that's a pretty good sense of how Leon's segment is going to feel, how it's going to play differently from the other ones.
Yep. Oh, this is one of my favorite sequences too, and you get two really good examples of just storytelling in the Leon segment.
Yeah.
Exactly, and this is another great one because, you know, Leon's
you
instinct.
can see, like, Leon always wants to try and help people and save people, even if it puts himself in great jeopardy. And so you can see it sort of is killing him here that he has to let these guys die.
I gotta say though, if there's a zombie outbreak, the last thing I'm gonna do is write help on a sign and just hold
Stand
it up
in front
to
of a camera,
Like,
yeah.
Oh, no problem. Zombies are here. No problem.
For a second, Leon still somehow thought that he could save those guys, but Hellena kind of had to talk some sense into him.
And the other thing that these two are gonna try and do is Hellena seems to know what the source of the outbreak is, and
exactly.
so that's actually
She has a hint. She's sort of keeping some information from Leon. It's a little suspicious, but she seems to know the cause of all of this.
All right, that wraps it up for Leon's segment. Stay tuned to IGN.com for more on Resident Evil 6.
And remember to shoot for the head.